Russ here on another Thursday Cannabis Commute, making my way across Eastern Oregon in the service of selling legal marijuana. Been a while since we talked, sorry about that. Those of you who've been following my YouTube page hoping to catch my live show, you've probably recognized there's been some problems with that. So yeah, where I'm trying to broadcast from, I just don't have the kind of bandwidth. You know, I'm still in the process of moving my studio. You know, I've moved to Caldwell, but I still have to get my studio moved to Caldwell. And in that location, I'll have a much, much greater bandwidth. I might even be able to, you know, do the show live on video again. That's the hope anyway. So stay tuned for that. Until then, you'll just have to catch my show on Radical Russ Radio, radicalruss.com, or just download the podcast for that. It's out every Friday. Usually I get around to posting it on the weekend, so Saturday, let's just be honest. But also, I've been quite busy lately with our efforts to legalize marijuana in the state of Idaho. Things have gotten very interesting with the introduction by State Senator C. Scott Grow. State Senator C. Scott Grow has proposed Senate Joint Resolution 101. And what this would be is, oh my goodness, we're falling apart. Okay, now we're back. Sorry about that. So, as I was saying, C. Scott Grow is a state senator in the state of Idaho. He is also a member of the Church of the Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, the Mormons. He's a member of their operating Congress. I don't know what it's called, but you might as well call it Congress, right? So, like, he's a high-level authority in the Mormon Church and a state senator. He has proposed SJR 101, Senate Joint Resolution 101. And this is a proposal for a constitutional amendment that would lock Idaho's drug laws in to where they are now, year 2021, and nothing in that list could ever be legalized ever. Now, what he's proposing in this amendment specifically is that all drugs listed in Idaho Title 37-2701T, 37-2703, I think, and 37-2705. And what those are, the 01T part is the definition of marijuana. The 03 part is the definition of all Schedule I drugs in Idaho. That also includes marijuana. So it's listed twice. And then the third part, the 05 part, is all Schedule II drugs. So basically we're talking about marijuana, heroin, ecstasy, cocaine, methamphetamine, LSD, psilocybin mushrooms, ibogaine, anything in the Schedule I or Schedule II list would be frozen by this constitutional amendment so that it could never be legalized unless two conditions. Unless Idaho chooses to legalize it and the federal FDA says that it's a legitimate medicine. Well, that's the catch, isn't it? Because as you and I know, the federal FDA, the Food and Drug Administration, can regulate two things: food and drugs. Plants are not on that list. The FDA can't regulate a plant. It doesn't have the statutory authority. It's an organization that's designed to regulate pills and liquids and items that have a specific content. Like an OxyContin pill always has the same thing in it. A cannabis plant doesn't. Cannabis plants vary from plant to plant, from strain to strain, even from bud to bud, can be a different constituency. So you can't have the FDA regulate marijuana as a plant, and they know it. They know that if they put this ban into the Constitution that says you can't legalize anything that's not FDA approved, that whole plant cannabis will never be approved in the state of Idaho. Now, C. Scott Grow knows this. In the testimony that went down this week, All sorts of people came up and talked about how they need medical marijuana. This guy with cancer talked about how he needs medical marijuana and how he can't take opioids because it could kill him. All sorts of people testified about their need for medical marijuana, and he knows this is the weak part of his bill. So he's trying to get people fooled. He's trying to lay the groundwork to fool people by saying, oh, well, don't worry. When the FDA approves cannabis medicines, those will be perfectly legal in Idaho. You know, like Sativex, the CBD oil, the Sativex. You know how much Sativex costs if you don't have insurance? A monthly regimen of Sativex. You know how much that costs? $13,000 a month, not a year. $13,000. So yeah, sure, the FDA will approve all sorts of cannabinoid medicines that come in pills and sprays and inhalers and lozenges and all sorts of things they can slap a barcode on and charge you 1,000% markup on. But whole plant cannabis? No, that would be banned forever by this constitutional amendment that's proposed in Idaho. And other folks have brought up the fact that even if this weren't about marijuana, if this weren't about drugs in any way, it's still terrible legislation. Constitutions are made to describe how a government works and to protect the rights of that people from that government. Laws are made to restrict things. You don't put laws to restrict things in the Constitution. We learned that lesson in the United States Constitution with alcohol prohibition. You'd think that people would learn from their history, but they don't. So you try to put this ban on all these drugs in the Constitution, and there's a huge statutory problem with that. There's a huge coding problem with that, right? I told you how his amendment says any drugs listed in 2701T, 2703, or 2705 are forever illegal. Well, the problem is statute numbers change over time. You know, you have new amendments that add new items. You have repeals that take things away. You have whole new sections of code that are added later on. So what's called 2701 today might be 2706 20 years from now. And therefore the Constitution would have this entirely wrong code number in it after all the numbers change. And then if you wanted to change that, you'd have to go and amend the Constitution to change those numbers. So this was brought up by one of the Democrats on the panel, on the committee, who said, you know, you're putting code numbers directly in the Constitution, and those code numbers will change. And C. Scott Grove's response to that was, well, I didn't want to have to put in all 40 pages of the controlled substances list. Shouldn't that be a clue? Shouldn't that be a clue that you're thinking, hey, you know, it would be a bad idea to type a 40-page list of alphabetical drugs into the Constitution. Let's just put some code numbers in. That wasn't your clue that maybe you were up to something no good? So yesterday, they were supposed to come back and have the final say on this amendment in committee and decide whether to vote it out of committee. But on Wednesday, C. Scott Groves showed up and said, oh, well, we've had something come up. We need to postpone till Friday. Yeah, the something that came up was, number one, farmers calling his office saying, hey, you know, industrial hemp is currently illegal. If you pass this amendment, we'll never be able to legalize industrial hemp. Number two, patients saying, hey, you pass this amendment, we're never going to be able to have any sort of vote on medical marijuana that 78% of Idahoans support, according to our polls. And then number three, this whole bad numbering part that goes in, you know, trying to put these code numbers in directly into the Constitution. I explained why you can't do that, but now the theory is that maybe Scott Groves is going to go back and paste all that 40-page list into the amendment. That's even worse for a couple reasons. Number one, have you ever heard of designer drugs? So, like, designer drugs are when you take a chemical. You got this certain chemical, this molecule you put together, and it's got a whole bunch of letters and numbers, and it's, you know, chemistry stuff, right? And it gets you high in some way, right? So the federal government goes, oh no, this chemical ABCD EFG, whatever it's called, right? ABCDEFG, we got to make that chemical illegal. Well, we can't. Nobody can have ABCDEFG. That's a bad drug. It's illegal. It gets you high. So a chemist, all he's got to do is say, well, I can tweak this molecule just a little bit. Let me just flip the B and the C, and it still gets you high pretty much the same way. But now that drug is no longer ABCDEFG. Now that drug is ACBDEFG. It's a different drug. So if you put in the Constitution ABCDEFG is illegal, and I change it to ACBDEFG, it's not illegal anymore. And then, if you want to make it illegal again, you'd have to go amend the Constitution again to make it illegal. Can you see how stupid this move is? This is how scared they are, how terrified they are, because they know when we put medical marijuana on the ballot, it's going to win. It's going to win easily. They know it, and they're trying to do everything they can to stop it. They tried this in 2019 as well. They tried to stop this in 2019. They tried it a different way a couple years ago. What they decided a couple of years ago was they would just change all the petitioning requirements. Instead of getting 6% signatures in 18 months from 18 districts, they were going to make it to get 10% signatures in 6 months from 32 districts. But then all their Republican and conservative friends said, hey, if you did that, nobody would be able to pass initiatives, not just medical marijuana, nobody would be able to pass initiatives for hunting or guns or abortion or whatever. So that got killed in the last legislative session. This is how scared they are of marijuana in Idaho. They're willing to destroy their own constitution to try to stop it. And so that on Friday, tomorrow, there should be another hearing on this bill. We've put action alerts out on our idahocan.co website, Idaho C-A-N-N, like cannabis, idahocan.com, you get all the alerts and subscribe there. We also have Idaho Can on Facebook, Idaho Can on Twitter. And so we're going to pack those hearing rooms tomorrow and let them know we're watching them. And we're not going to let them monkey around with the Idaho Constitution just because they're scared of marijuana. And it's so weird in Idaho, I got to tell you. It's so weird that Idaho is so afraid of marijuana. You know, Idaho is supposed to be the state of liberty, right? That's, Idahoans pride themselves on being rugged individualists and tough outdoor guys. And oh my goodness, we like liberty in America and the Constitution and freedom. So in Idaho, it is perfectly legal for any adult to concealed carry a firearm on their person with no training, no license, no registration, no display of firearms proficiency. If you're 21 years old in Idaho, you can go buy a handgun and tuck it into your jacket, hide it, and go anywhere in the state, including the state house, with that loaded weapon in your coat, except for a school or a church. But anywhere else, no training, no license, no safety courses, nothing. So we're not afraid of any old yahoo running around. We're not afraid of any old yahoo just running around with firearms with no training. But if that guy had a joint in his pocket, oh boy, that would be a problem. Oh, we can't have people smoking weed. No, that'd be awful. It's also legal in the state of Idaho. Check this out. In the state of Idaho, aerial fireworks are illegal to fire off, right? Like, Roman candles, bottle rockets, all the good stuff, right? Is illegal to fire off in the state of Idaho. However, they are not illegal to buy. That's right. In Idaho, you can go to fireworks stores and buy fireworks that are not legal to shoot in the state, so long as you sign a little affidavit and pinky swear that you won't shoot them off in Idaho. Really, and this is the point. Like there's this fireworks store on the freeway, exit 26 on I-84, and it's got a floor, and on the floor, half the floor is painted red and half the floor is painted blue. And on the blue side are all the fireworks you can buy in Idaho that you can shoot in Idaho, and on the red side are all the fireworks you can buy in Idaho that you can't shoot in Idaho. As long as you promise not to shoot, you can buy them. That fireworks store is a couple of hours, like 3 or 4 hours away from the nearest state where you can shoot those fireworks off. So Idaho's got no problem with people having all sorts of aerial fireworks and explosives. But boy, if they had a joint in their pocket, that might be dangerous. You know what else is legal in Idaho? The governor signed a law that allowed for unattended spring-loaded cyanide traps to kill wolves. Basically, these are out in the middle of nowhere, and the wolf sets it off, and it pops up and sprays cyanide. That's legal, but we're afraid if somebody might have a joint. Oh, the freeways, of course, let's not forget. In Idaho, it's perfectly legal to drive 80 miles an hour on certain sections of the freeway out in the country. 80 miles an hour speed limit, perfectly fine. And you can ride your motorcycle on that freeway with no helmet. No helmet, 80 miles an hour. But don't have a joint in your pocket, because that could be dangerous. This is what we're dealing with in Idaho. This is the kind of mentality, and we are going to keep fighting. That C. Scott Grow I was telling you about, the one who's putting out this constitutional amendment to forever ban medical marijuana. Let me give you another point on that. So Scott Grow wants to fool you. He wants to say this is just about banning drugs. We want to ban drugs. We want to make sure it's not like Oregon and they go and legalize drugs, which is a mischaracterization, because Oregon has not legalized drugs. We have decriminalized drugs. It's a huge difference. But they seem to think that, oh boy, if we don't do this, the next thing you know, there's going to be legal meth in Idaho. As if there's any popular will to do that in Idaho. There's not. But there's plenty of popular will to pass medical marijuana. Like I said, 78% support that we've got for medical marijuana in the state of Idaho, according to our polls. So this amendment has nothing to do with drugs. It's all about stopping medical marijuana. That's it. They just want to stop medical marijuana. And they want to fool you by saying, oh, well, we'd be able to allow you to use cannabinoid medicines, and if the FDA approved it, it would be okay. But like I said before, the FDA can't approve a plant, so whole plant cannabis would never be legal. But he also wants to throw in a little trick about something called the Right to Try Act. Now, the Right to Try Act is this act that says if you're dying, if you're terminal, we're just going to let you use whatever drugs you want to use, so long as they're, FDA clinical trial or, FDA experimental drugs, that'll be fine. As long as you're dying, that'll be cool. Well, the thing about Right to Try is, number one, it doesn't include cannabis, because again, we're talking about drugs that are under the purview of the FDA, so that's not going to help any patient that needs whole plant cannabis. And number two, just like they're locking the definitions of drugs into the year 2021, they're locking the definition of eligible patient to the year 2020. So, if in the future the feds say, hey, this right to try should apply to this, that, and the other thing, that won't work in Idaho, because Idaho locked the definition into 2020. Think of the hubris and arrogance it takes for legislators to go, well, you know what? It's the year 2021. Medical science has improved as much as possible. Every drug that's legal now is all the drugs we'll ever need in all of eternity. Science has finished here. It's crazy, isn't it? And here's the other thing. This is a constitutional amendment we're talking about. So if we go and put medical marijuana on the ballot this year, and he puts that amendment on the ballot this year, we could be voting on both, right? Both a medical initiative and a prohibition amendment. And guess what? If the prohibition amendment wins, it outranks the medical initiative. We could go to the polls and get 75% support for medical marijuana, but if the prohibition amendment gets 50% plus one vote, the medical marijuana initiative is tossed. Amendments outrank initiatives. You can't have an initiative to legalize something that's unconstitutional. And this amendment would make it unconstitutional to legalize drugs. So not only would an initiative this year, even if it passed, an initiative this year would fail because of that amendment, it would make it so you could never do another initiative. You can't legalize something by initiative that's unconstitutional. The only way we would ever be able to legalize medical marijuana in Idaho if this amendment passes is to pass another amendment that repeals that amendment. And the bad news, the people of Idaho can't propose amendments. The people of Idaho can only propose initiatives for laws. Only the legislature can promote an amendment. So, if this gets on the ballot, now, to get on the ballot, this prohibition amendment has to get 2/3 vote in the Senate, 2/3 vote in the House, and half the vote in the election. The Idaho Senate has 35 members. Scott Grow is the sponsor, and he currently has 22 Senate co-sponsors. That makes for 23 votes, and 23 votes is 2/3 majority. If it gets through the Senate, if it gets out of this committee first, now the committee is 7 Republicans, 2 Democrats, and I think all 7 Republicans on that committee are co-sponsors, or at least a majority of them are. So it's likely to get out of committee. If it gets out of committee and goes to the Senate, it's likely to pass the Senate. If it gets past the Senate, it's got to go to House committees in the House. I don't know where the whip count is on the House at this point, but it's a very Republican House as well. I think it would probably pass the Idaho House. If it gets past the House and Senate, it goes on the ballot in 2022. And if it goes on the ballot in 2022, we have to take some of our focus off of trying to pass recreational legalization and instead play defense against a prohibition amendment and try to promote a medical initiative. That's the situation in the state of Idaho, folks. So we're going to need a ton of help. Our fundraising page is not up yet. I have to get it reset, and I just haven't had enough time this week yet, but I should have it by the end of the week. But please follow us on Idaho Can on Facebook, Idaho CANN on Facebook, Idaho Can on Twitter, and idahocan.co online. And as soon as we have petitions to sign, events to go to, protests to hold, places to donate your money, as soon as all that's available, that's the first place you're going to find it, is on idahocan.co. And also, tomorrow, Friday, 8 a.m. at the Idaho State House in room WW55, that's the West Wing, basement, room 55 is where that State Affairs Committee is meeting to talk about this amendment. I will be there, Lori will be there, Bill will be there, and as many people as we can get from our online base, we're going to be there. Now, I don't think we'll get the chance to testify. We don't know about that yet. Oh, it's my lovely Lori. Hold on. Hi, baby. Hello. Oops. Let's try that again. Hello.
Hi.
Hey, I'm on YouTube Live right now, just so you know.
Call me after you're off there. Hello, everybody.
Okay, thanks, baby. I'm just telling them about the See Scott Grow and the amendment and the thing tomorrow on Friday.
Go, Scott, go.
Go, Scott, go. All right, love you.
Bye, love you.
Isn't that nice? So, yeah, for those of you who just joined us, I'm on the Cannabis Commute again. Normally, this is my trip where I drive from Caldwell to Sumter, Oregon, which is about a 2-hour drive to run our marijuana dispensary up there. But today, I'm taking a little bit longer drive because I have to go all the way to Pendleton, Oregon. Pendleton's about in the middle of the north of the state of Oregon. We buy a lot of our flower from a company called Moto Perpetuo, and they're a Portland grower, Portland company, and they get great prices on their flower. You know, we can get pounds for $800 to $1,200 a pound. So The only problem is Moto Perpetuo's all the way in Portland, and they don't like to drive all the way across the state and try to deliver them all the way to Sumter. And if we had to rely on the people who only drive to Sumter, our flower prices would be a lot more expensive. So we made a deal with Moto that we'll meet them halfway. They drive to Pendleton, and we drive to Pendleton, meet them halfway there, and pick up the flowers. So that's what I'm up to right now, is driving to Pendleton to pick up a whole bunch of pre-rolls. I think we got 13 different pre-roll strains I'm picking up. We've been low on pre-rolls for the past month or so. It's tough in the winter. You know, we don't have as much cash flow during the winter when the roads get bad. Not as many people want to make that drive. So I'm making the drive to Pendleton to go pick us up some pre-rolls. And I don't know if I'll be able to stay online as I go through the canyons here, but I'm seeing no network connection on my phone, so I imagine we're going to drop off here any minute. Anyway, thank you so much for joining me on the Cannabis Commute. I'm Radical Russ. Check out radicalruss.com, at Radical Russ on everything. See you tomorrow at the Idaho State House, and until next time, take care of each other, tokers!